our secrets are subject to being stolen. And what we need to do is we need to protect those secrets. So we make a secondary response. You imagine that you have information here. And you have us, and you have them. We know that they are thinking, I wonder if they have X. And the idea is they're going to try whatever the way they can to arrive at X, right? So that their initiative, their initiative is directed towards the community. Their intelligence community is directed towards our intelligence community. Their operatives are directed towards our operatives as a means of accessing the content information which will allow them to uncover the secret. So that's their primary objective, right? So that the primary objective is to get to know as much as we can possibly know about them. So you would imagine someone who has more power, this is a need-to-know basis, you don't need to know more than you need to know, and they say, get to know as much as you can possibly know about them. Okay, that is the primary objective of the operative, of the agency, of whatever. And it is operationalized and people get out into the world to try and know. We recognize that they have this primary objective. And in a response to this objective, not that this has to happen chronologically, I mean obviously, right? And in response to this objective, at least theoretically, it is more sequential in nature, we try our best to thwart any effort, right? We try our best to thwart any effort, right? And what we do is our intelligence community tries to make assessments of the intent of their intelligence community, presupposing that deception is always in play. Now this is where I am a kid in a candy store. I love stuff like this because it is profoundly difficult to think about. You know that the operatives know that they're engaging in clandestine activities, and it's likely that operative A knows that operative B is an operative and vice versa. And we know that the game is you're trying to get information out of us, and you anticipate that I'm not going to give it to you. This is genius. It's just genius. The foundation, and I'm being a little playful here for the fact that it is really in the spirit of play. It is a game. It is a game that I need to give you the feeling. Counterintelligence when it's done best. And I'll regulate the universe because, I mean, all that stuff has been written before. I'm not really saying anything new, and I'm definitely not taking it deep, but this next thing I'm about to say is a little deep. So I'll vibe it in the next coming days. But the idea is, I want to give you the impression that you got what you thought you came to get. Oh man, you're just so smart. You're awfully smart. Look at that, you played me. Here's the information, and you walk away thinking that you have satisfied that which you were tasked to do. That's great counterintelligence. That's counterintelligence at its big. People have this misconception, profoundly. I mean, the average Joe, you ask the average Joe, what is counterintelligence? And it's wiretapping our enemy. That's intelligence. That's intelligence. That's not counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is not me wiretapping the enemy. That's just plain old intelligence. Counterintelligence is really technically meta-intelligence. It is my operationalized intent to come about information, intelligence about your intelligence. You have intelligence that is driving your actions in the world, and I want to come to know what your intelligence is. So ideologically speaking, this can get ridiculous, right? But it really is systems competing, right? Intelligence systems competing. Our intelligence system trying to come to understand and know what your intelligence system is tasked with, and then deflect that. Or we sabotage by giving you the Trojan horse. Yeah, sure, you got what you think you came for, and you go off going back to your to those above you saying, see what I got? And they slap you on the head because they're like, he fooled you, you're an idiot. So the next bit on counterintelligence, this is right underneath counterintelligence, bullet point 1, bottom of page 7, direct quote. Quote, the protection is important, right? The protection and preservation of the military, economic, and productive strength of the United States, this comes from the book, but of any nation, of any sovereign nation, the protection, preservation of military, economic, and productive strength, we're talking about power, including the security of the government in domestic and foreign affairs, and our diplomats, obviously, against or from espionage, sabotage, subversion, and all other similar illegal acts designed to weaken or destroy the nation. Right? So that's what it is. It's preventative. It's protective. But there are fangs to counterintelligence. It's clearly not just the case that in terms of counterintelligence, what I'm doing is protecting against an assault or deflecting or distracting. The idea is, imagine, and I'm definitely not going to go too deep on this, but imagine that I realize that an operative, potentially, I being some, intelligence agent in field. I mean, this is sort of bondish. And I don't mean it to sound so trite, but it's a good example. I realize as an operative in the field that I am potentially going to be encountered, I'm going to have the encounter with other operatives. And they are going to present themselves to me as though they were regular civilians. So insofar as I'm presented with all of these people as if they were regular civilians, counterintelligence, really good counterintelligence, is the recognition, individually speaking, within the operative as an individual person, is the recognition that every single person that I meet is potentially affiliated. In terms of, by the way, if you have any psychological, any paranoia proclivity, you really should not be watching this series. This is not going to help you in the world, especially when it comes to conspiracy theory and such, if you are sort of predisposed to paranoia, right? And I mean that. I know it sounds sort of like tongue-in-cheek and joking, but this is the part where it'll get in your brain and really erode your life. If you understand what I'm saying, which I think I've said it in a way that can be understood, and you actually try to implement this as a lifestyle, it can destroy you. This is not for the weak at heart at all, and I mean that seriously. In terms of this relationship, the idea is, where are the fangs of this? If I really am good at counterintelligence, I can give you information that you take back to the system, believing that you've accomplished whatever objective it is that you needed to accomplish, and the information that you're taking back to the system destroys it internally. It's not a game. It's not a game, right? So good counterintelligence, as far as I'm concerned, should be taught both as protective and deflectionary, but also that Trojan horse. I mean, this goes back. This is thousands of years old. We come bearing gifts. Here are the gifts. Take this information and run with those gifts, and use those gifts to undermine the systemic integrity of your opposition. That's great counter-intel, right? That's counter-intel when it's breaking stuff, which is awesome. And again, the relevance of this lecture series is more about idea generation. I don't think I'm necessarily saying anything novel. I think what the novelty might be is the way in which I'm connecting ideas that might not have seemed like they connect. So that the idea of, oh, we understand, probably layperson or person who's studying to enter into the intelligence community through whatever institution, having watched this, I know people in the community know this. But, someone on the outside looking to probably go into the intelligence community, that recognition that counterintelligence isn't just this protectionary, deflectionary, sort of passive, responsive mode of existing, that there is a more aggressive response, meaning the use of intelligence of another person's intelligence to weaken their intelligence, right? That requires a tremendous amount of skill and forethought, right? You have to be continuously anticipating their moves before they do it. Anywho, counter-espionage. Counter-espionage. Alright, yeah.